Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar where we will be discussing from University Challenge Fund to opening a real account. My name is Ralph Spears and thank you for joining us. It's going to be a short presentation, but really what I'm trying to help you do is for those of you that have been playing the University Challenge and would like now to actually open a real account, I'd like to take you through a few things to consider when opening an account. This is our usual disclaimer. Please understand I can't give you advice. I can't tell you which is the right share. And so therefore, please understand when getting advice, make sure you are getting advice from somebody that's licensed by the FSB to actually do that. So for you to invest or trade on the JSE, you need to go via a stockbroker. The list of stockbrokers can be found on our website. Just make sure that these are registered stockbrokers with the JSE, they're members of the JSE, so that you're not using somebody that claims to be a stockbroker, yet they're not with the JSE. So if you wanted to go and find a stockbroker, you can go to the website jse.co.za, click under individual investor, and then click find a broker. Now this will be at the bottom of that page. Okay, it's at the bottom left hand corner at the bottom of the page. Find a broker, and then this is the list that you will find. A shortcut to this page is just to type www.jse.co.za/find a stockbroker, and it'll come directly to this page. So that's jse.co.za/find a stockbroker. So what are the costs involved? There are two main costs that you've got to look out for, and that is the brokerage fee, minimum or percentage, whichever is greater, and the monthly fee or annual fee. So I've got an example here. What happens when you got two brokers, and remember I said it's either minimum or percentage, whichever is greater. So let's say the broker A is charging 120 minimum or 1%, whichever is greater. So if you had to go take the calculator and say 5,000 Rand times 1%, it's going to give you 50 Rand. But then which is greater, 50 Rand or the 120 minimum? Clearly the 120 minimum is greater. Again, if you had to go to broker A and you spend 10,000 Rand and the brokerage percentage was 1%, again, that would be 100 Rand. But he won't charge you the 100 Rand, he's going to charge you the minimum because it's greater, the 120. But once it gets over a certain threshold, you can see here, 15,000 at 1% is 150 Rand. So it's greater than 120 minimum, and you'll be charged the 150, the 1%. If you went and spent 25,000 Rand on a share and a company, and you were charged 1% with that broker A, you would pay 250 Rand. You would not pay the minimum because why? The minimum is not as big as the 250 Rand. So that's how it works with a broker. And again, broker B, 60 Rand or 0.5%. 5,000 times 0.5% is 25 Rand. Which is greater, 60 Rand or 25 Rand? It's 60 Rand. 10,000 Rand, 50 Rand or 60 Rand. 60 Rand is greater. But once you get to 15,000, then 75 Rand is greater than 60. So therefore, that's what you're to be charged, 0.5%. And that is how brokers work. The other thing you've got to look at is the monthly and annual fee. They could charge you a monthly fee of anywhere between 40, 50, 60, 70 Rand, whatever it is. And they'll charge you just like a normal check account. But some brokers charge you annually and say, you know what, you're going to pay 680 or 700 Rand annually, and you won't pay it every month. Some of them waiver the monthly fee if you trade more than 3 times or 2 times, depending on which broker it is, or trade more than 3 or 4 times in a year. They won't charge you these monthly or annual fees. So again, when you go into the brokers, you need to take this percentage and monthly or annual fees into consideration. You need to understand which instrument or which area you're going to start investing in. Are you going to be doing top 40 shares, exchange traded funds, which I'm going to cover a little bit now, but mid cap shares or small cap shares, your penny shares, or are you going to do single stock futures or currencies? And understand that single stock futures currencies are a lot more riskier than buying a top 40 share. So you need to understand the big difference and need to understand where you're going to play. Be careful with going to the most riskiest instrument at the start. Rather learn the basics first. Stick to shares that are not as volatile, and over time you can move to other areas once you get comfortable with the markets. The amount you need to invest, well, brokers will tell you that there's no minimum. However, you need to understand, based on the percentages and the minimums I told you in one of the previous slides, to do the 1% or 120, you need to see that you are covering your brokerage fee, and therefore between 5 and 10,000 Rand is probably somewhere where you need to be looking at to actually make it worth your while. There are some brokers or some platforms that do allow you to even do as little as 100 Rand, but it all depends on their fee structure and how they charge the clients and how it works for you. Make sure, as long as you are able to break even on your transaction fees without the share having to increase by 10 or 20% before that happens. You want to have it that you can break even, in other words, cover your costs with about maybe 1, 2, 3% max. And then from there on, you are making a profit. So you don't want the share, you don't want to have the share to move up to a huge percentage before you cover the costs of what it cost you to do the transaction. With exchange traded funds, and there's baskets of shares I'm going to talk about now, you can do 100 Rand, 300 Rand, 1,000 Rand. Again, it all depends on which platform you use, but there are lower entries there. And I would say there are lower fees involved. So what is an exchange traded fund? I'm not going to go too much into detail, but I just want you to understand it's a basket of shares that tracks an index. You can have, like, for example, top 40, which is your JSE top 40, and it tracks a basket of shares. So instead of buying one company out of the top 40 and you don't know what's going to happen to it, you could go buy the whole basket. And by buying the whole basket, you are diversifying and making your risk a lot less. You don't have to analyze the companies. You don't have to go and work out which is the exact right share to buy. Here, it's just buying a collective of shares. It makes life a lot easier. It's cost effective, and it's one of the options that you should consider when investing in the stock market for the first time. So there are many different ETFs. You've got the top 40 ETFs, sector style ETFs like industrials, resources, financials, commodity ETFs like new gold, dividend ETFs that follow companies paying dividends, property ETFs, your commercial property ETFs that own some of the commercial properties around the country, currency ETFs, international ETFs like your S&P 500, your DBX, UK, US, Europe. There are many different options and bond ETFs. So you've got a wide variety of ETFs that you can select from. And I want to bring to your attention something that has been now in existence for about 2 or 3 years, where you get a tax-free allowance of 33,000 annually that you can invest up to each year from March until February. So you don't have to put all 33 at once, 33,000. You can do it, put at 500 now, 1,000 Rand later, but you cannot contribute more than 33,000 in a year. That whole amount is tax-free. And what that means is that should that money double in the next 5 years with you buying some kind of ETF, all that profit will be tax-free. None of it will be taxed. You can contribute up to 500,000 in your lifetime. So each year you can do 33,000. You cannot backdate the amount. So in other words, last year I didn't contribute my 33, so this year I want to do 66 instead. You can only do 33 each and every year. So take advantage of this thing. It's tax-free. When you start earning a salary and you start having being taxed at 30, 35, 40%, 40% of your profits, it's a large amount. So this tax-free vehicle is a great vehicle for you to consider and should be one of them that you should look at. The summary of the steps to take to start. 1, you need to get your FICA documents ready. The next thing is have the amount you would like to invest. So you need to have the amount when you're opening the account to invest. The next thing you need to decide which instrument you want to invest in. Shares, ETFs, the tax-free ETFs, and there is a difference between ETFs and tax-free ETFs in the fact that some of the ETFs you can't buy because they're not a collective investment. In other words, they're one instrument. Like, for example, New Gold is an ETF, but it's not part of the tax-free ETFs you can buy. Then you've got single stock futures and currencies. You must decide which one you want to start investing in. Choose a stockbroker or an ETF provider and look at the JSE website to find the providers or the stockbrokers to make sure that you are using one that's legit. Make sure you've looked at the monthly and annual fees, the transaction costs. And I'd like to add, yes, not part of my points, but what services, what are they giving you, what education they're giving you, what backup they're giving you. Find out that information can also help you with understanding what you're going to get, what is on that platform. Even ask if you could have a trial version just to see what you're actually getting. And register an account online. So once you've chosen the broker, you can register online. You then email your FICA documents or post it, and then you transfer the amount into the bank accounts that they give you with your account number. You submit your FICA documents, as I said, and transfer the amount. And once you have done your homework, you can start buying shares. So once you've got all the admin out the way, now you're ready to at least start looking. Make sure you do your homework before you buy any share or ETF or whatever it is that you're going to start investing in. And that's really a summary of how to get started. It's a very simple process. It's very easy. It just takes some effort to just look and see who you'd like to work with, which broker, and what are you going to get charged every month. Make sure you've got the amount and get started. The most important thing is starting. Don't delay. Yes, it might cost you an amount every month. You're paying monthly fees or whatever it is. But the bottom line is that you're getting exposure. The sooner you start, the better. If you're now at varsity and leaving varsity and you want to start, it's a great opportunity to start early. At least when you start getting your big bonuses and lump sums, you'll know how to invest them because you would have learned from mistakes you've made. You would have learned a lot over the years that you had the account open. So the sooner you start, I believe, the bigger advantage you have over the rest of those that only wait until they've got large sums of money. Here is our website, social media websites for the challenge, JSE Challenge. In Instagram, you can look at us on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. That's our contact details. And I'm open to any questions that you might have for me today.